Welcome to the Suzuka circuit. It's day 2 of the fabulous Ferrari racing days here at the iconic host of the Japanese Grand Prix. Yet again, we've been spoilt for demonstration runs and opportunities to take in some of the greatest performance cars and race cars that Ferrari has had to offer over the years. But now we focus on the competitive aspect of the weekend, and that is offered up by Ferrari Challenge Japan. Yesterday, we had a race that was taken by this man, the 5th consecutive victory of the season for Yudai Uchida. Uchida, who has been the only consistent entrant into the Trofeo Pirelli class this season, he will have already done enough to secure himself a 2nd consecutive Ferrari Challenge Japan Trofeo Pirelli championship at this stage. No one could outscore him from here, and it could prove to be a critical day in the championship across the board. Interestingly, though, the grid is a lot different from what we saw yesterday. It is Uchida on pole. Akihiro Suzuki, though, on the front row alongside him, the driver who has made his first Trofeo Pirelli class appearance of the season that you see on screen at the moment. Had a bit of an anonymous race yesterday, but is right at the fore this time on the front row of the grid. And just behind on the second row, it's Tatsuya Minoa, who, of course, is running as the young driver talent this weekend for Ferrari Japan. He had to start from the 10th row of the grid yesterday. Today he starts from row number 2. Made up a lot of good positions yesterday, but today is his opportunity to showcase exactly what he can do at the wheel of the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo, the young driver who has a fair chunk of tin top and saloon car, small sports car experience. Don't think he's ever raced anything quite as potent as the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo, and this is a great opportunity for Minoa to showcase what he can do in a high-level GT machine. Pole sitter Yudai Uchida arrives to the grid. We should talk a little bit about the championship situation in Ferrari Challenge Japan in each of our 4 classes. Trofeo Pirelli for our fastest drivers, Pirelli AM for those who are knocking on the door of potentially fighting for overall podiums, Copa Shell for some of the drivers perhaps in their sophomore season or who are a little bit older, and then the the Copa Shell AM category for those who are taking their very first steps in racing. All 4 classes, of course, will be coming to a head very shortly. We only have 3 races left, including this one, and 15 points are scored for a race victory in each of the 4 classes. Then it's 12 points for second, 10 points for third, so on and so forth. There is also an additional point for being on the entry list. There's a point for the fastest lap and a point for pole position as well. So that means that we have potentially got some championship winning scenarios to contest with. Again, as I said at the top of the broadcast, Yudai Uchida cannot be dethroned at this point. His primary competitor for the season was set to be Nobuhiro Imada, but of course Imada had his moment at Fuji and is yet to have raced since then. However, I should say that Imada is here this weekend and running, so Imada is okay. We just haven't seen him in the championship since Fuji. Moving beyond that, we should talk about Akita. Akita is the leader in Trofeo Pirelli AM, took the victory in that category yesterday and was 21 points clear of Kanji Igura coming into the weekend. I don't think he's quite going to do enough unless there's quite a dramatic moment for Igura. I don't think he's quite going to do enough to take the championship in Trofeo Pirelli AM today, but certainly there's the possibility of having a near inassailable lead going into the season finale weekend in August, which of course, as you saw at the top of the broadcast, will be held at Okayama, the final destination of the season. 5 rounds across 4 of the greatest facilities in Japan. Rolling down the grid now, you can see Yusaku Maezawa 17th on the overall grid, but critically the first of the Copa Shell AM runners on the grid, so he has another Copa Shell AM pole position to his name in 17th overall. Your first of your Trofeo Pirelli AM runners is Kanji Agura. He's 4th on the grid with Motohiro Katani and Cold Max behind him on row 2. Akita, interestingly, only 10th on the grid. He is 5th among the Pirelli AM runners. So our driver who started on pole position yesterday has a lot more work to do on Sunday. Copa Shell pole has gone to Tsutomu Shimoyama, and Shimoyama will start from 7th on the overall grid. Row 4 is Shimoyama and Kazutaka Miura. So in fact it's an all Copa Shell row 4 of the grid as we get a look here at Kanji Agura, the Cornez Osaka machine. And then of course, as we've already alluded to, Yusaku Maezawa is the Shell AM leader coming into this race. He starts 17th and first in that class. It was a wet qualifying this morning. As you can see, it's still damp around the circuit at the moment. And that did have an effect on qualifying. Our lap times were down, in many cases, above the 2-minute 20 bracket. The pole position was a 2:18.871 from Yudai Uchida. Certainly a long way off the dry weather pace of these 488 Challenge Evo machines. So that was a spanner in the works. Some good news is that John Leo was out there qualifying earlier on. So he actually did he did 11 laps during qualifying, John Leo, in the 108 car. Of course, he was the driver who brought out the red flag to end the race yesterday. I think he's in a different chassis today. And thankfully, he's feeling good enough to go racing once again. He'll start from 30th on the grid. 31 cars qualified for the race. You can see there the guests, the personnel, all on the grid. So many support personnel to make sure these cars run perfectly. Here's a look at the grid in full then. Uchida and Tsuki on row 1. Minoa and Yagura on row 2, Katani and Coldmax on row 3, then it's Shimoyama and Kazutaka Miura. Can either of the Copa Shell drivers maybe challenge for an overall top 5? We'll have to keep an eye on their fortunes. Row 5 of the grid, Iritani and Akita, Shirasaki and Phil Kim. He'll be one to watch. Masaru Yaneda, Kiwamu Katayama, Motohiko Isazaki, once again a bit lower on the grid than we'd expect in 15th. He's alongside Ryuichi Kunihiro on row 8. Row 9 of the grid, Yusaku Maezawa alongside Desuke, who had a good run within the top half dozen yesterday. He has some work to do. Saito and Shibata, Hiwatashi and Nakajima, Katayama and Koga rounding out the first dozen rows of the grid. Such is the popularity of Ferrari Challenge Japan, though. There's a lot more than 12 rows to talk you through. Toshihiko Sano in the 13th row alongside Komatsu. Kenichi on row 14 alongside Matsumoto. Kurakawa, John Leo and Takeshi Shigeto rounding out the 31 cars that take the start. We started the season here at the Suzuka circuit. It was a record entry when we had 29 cars with us for the opening weekend, which was held in parallel with the Japanese Grand Prix here at Suzuka. And now we've had multiple weekends with over 30 cars taking part, which is a testament to the popularity of Ferrari Challenge Japan and the continued popularity of Ferrari Challenge in the broader Asian region, where Ferrari Challenge has for a long time thrived. And in the Asian region, Yudai Uchida has long thrived in Ferrari Challenge, and it's been no different so far this season. His only races that he didn't win was, of course, here at Suzuka in April, when Yuga Furitani used the number 2, the guest car, the Ferrari Japan entry, to secure both wins in front of the Japanese Grand Prix crowd. We've since seen that number 2 car in the hands of Yugo Iwasawa, Anna Inotsume, and now Tatsuya Minoa, the 23-year-old racer who has driven rear-wheel drive cars before, has certainly driven tin tops before, but nothing quite like a 3.9 litre, 670 horsepower V8. And it seems like this morning, in tricky conditions, he found the way to make it work for him, and he could well be a contender for the race victory. Let's talk a little bit about the man who starts, though, alongside Yudai Uchida. Akihiro Tsuki, or I should say Suzuki, has raced for a long time in the higher levels of Asian GT racing. I have no doubt he'll be a familiar name to a lot of you, Suzuki. He is a former racer in the Macau GT Cup event in a Ferrari. Has also raced Super GT for numerous manufacturers, including Ferrari, the Asian Le Mans series, and much more besides. And the 46-year-old, a former Japanese champion in other single-mate competitions. 46-year-old racer, very fast still, although I don't think he's done quite as much racing in the last few years as he would have liked. And now Akihiro Suzuki is going to be perhaps the biggest challenge for Yudai Uchida on this second race. Great to have him on the front row of the grid in that rather fetching cream-coloured Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. Track and air temps are a little bit lower than they were yesterday, but look at that, even with the lack of sunshine today, we're only 5 degrees down on where we were yesterday. We had 35 degrees air temperature, 89% humidity though, that's a big figure. It's going to be a dramatic race here. Have to imagine they're starting this on treaded tyres. See if I can get a look at the tread pattern on any of these cars before they roll. Don't think it's slicks weather. Our camera crew just now retreating from the grid because we are a couple of moments away from going racing. Has anyone taken the gamble to be on slicks? I think it's just too wet. Looking at the start-finish line here, there's not really a dry line that's developed. Even with some of the XX Cliente cars going around the circuit, the likes of the FXXK and the 599XX running around the circuit. Just before we were out on the Ferrari Challenge Japan grid, even with those cars out there, it hasn't really dried sufficiently, I don't think, for dry conditions. The marshals getting the technicians to stop checking the tyre temps and get off the grid because we are about to go rolling. And indeed racing for the second time this weekend. Race 8 of the 10 races across our 5 weekends of action. Of course, a great many of these drivers will cross over to the Ferrari Finale Mondiale event after the Ferrari Challenge Japan season. The grand spectacle to conclude the Ferrari Challenge season. Again, getting a look at those tyres. They look like slicks to me, actually. Perhaps that's just my imagination, but that looked like Yudai Uchida on slicks. So perhaps it's a little drier in reality than it is to my eye. These drivers will know best. Ultimately, it's the comfort of the driver that counts for everything when it comes to tyre selection. We'll get a look at the rest of the circuit, of course, now on this formation lap. It's certainly drier towards the first corner than it is on the main straight. In fact, that is slick worthy. going into turn 1. So perhaps it's more dry with damp patches than it is still wet here at the circuit. It certainly was wet this morning in qualifying. They don't drop down to a 218 without the weather causing some dramas. Uchida is our pole sitter, as we said, but I'm very interested to see what Akihiro Suzuki can do. Tatsuya Minoa, Kanji Yagura. Yagura could definitely be a contender for an overall podium, and Coldmax starting 6th as well will be a very interesting story. Yesterday, Coldmax was carving his way through the order from the 10th row of the grid and was well into the top 10 by the time the race concluded. So now that he starts from a strong 6th position, can Coldmax do the business? I certainly wouldn't bet against him. Coldmax is currently 3rd in the Pirelli Am standings. He's had 2 podiums to his name so far this season. He's yet to take a win in the Trofeo Pirelli Am category. So 3rd among the Pirelli Am drivers and 6th on the overall grid. This could be his opportunity to claim a victory within class as well, but he's got some stiff competition ahead of him, particularly that man Kanji Yagura. Is not, of course, to discredit Motohiro Katani. It's great to have Katani back in the field, actually. It's been a little while since we've seen the driver of the 28 car. He began racing Ferrari Challenge back in 2022. Is a previous winner within Trofeo Pirelli Am. Has been doing some single-seater racing this year, but is back in his Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo once again. Of course, this weekend has also marked the Japanese debut of the Ferrari 296 Challenge car, which has been doing some demo runs and catching the eye of our existing grid and potentially some new competitors as well. And the new example, the new benchmark for Ferrari Challenge machinery, the 296 Challenge, is set to be racing with us in Ferrari Challenge Japan next year. I suspect we're going to see a lot of new and returning faces in the Ferrari Challenge Japan sphere come at the beginning of the 2025 season. Of course, the 296 already proven to be a very exciting car for racing action in both the North American and the European series. The 488 Challenge Evo has been a brilliant platform for Ferrari Challenge. There's still a lot of life in these wonderful machines. The final, at least for now, V8 powered Ferrari Challenge car. And in a few moments, we will see who can claim this victory. Yudai Uchida will be so desperate to make it 6 from 6. I think Uchida's a bit of a statistic collector, and a 6th consecutive win would certainly be right up Yudai's alley. Uchida-san would be delighted with that. Of course, we have 2 formation laps today, as we did yesterday as well. Yesterday, reason given was to put some temp into the tyres, and I suspect that today it is A, again, getting temperature in the tyres, and B, getting drivers to kind of get an impression of where the damp patches are. Some reconnaissance laps, if you will, but 2 formation laps for these drivers. Such a healthy mix of racing newcomers, many of whom you'll find in the Copa Shell Am category, and experienced drivers. One thing that's worth talking about as well is the potential for the streak ending in Copa Shell Am. What am I talking about? Well, Masafumi Hiwatashi, the current Shell Am Championship leader, currently by a long way as well. In fact, I think he could secure Shell Am today if he claims a win, particularly if Maizawa doesn't do particularly well. 3 wins so far, one of them at Fuji, one of them at Suzuka, and one of them at Sugo. And he's yet to finish lower than second this season, which means that at each of our weekends, the 129 driver has finished first and second, first and second, first and second. He finished second yesterday, so in order for the streak to continue, Hiwatashi needs to win Copa Shell Am on this occasion. Some good information also that I've been getting from some of the media crew for Ferrari Challenge is that the Ferrari cavalcade that starts in Venice tomorrow, the incredible kind of almost grand tour of Ferrari, both Yagura and Shirasaki are intending to compete or intending to participate in the Ferrari cavalcade, which means that effectively they need to finish this race and then get on a plane. I suspect they won't get out of the race suits until they're on the plane. And so if they do finish on the podium, they're going to have to forego the champagne and run to the airport. So Kanji Yagura, who is, of course, on pole position within Trofeo Pirelli Am, so there's a good risk that he ends up missing a podium that he should, by all rights, stand on, as well as Shirasaki. Yasutaka Shirasaki, who again is right up there in Copa Shell as well. Both those drivers, if they do get a good result today, they might not quite get to celebrate it in the way they typically would, because they're off to the Ferrari Cavalcade tomorrow. If you've never seen the Ferrari Cavalcade, it's an incredible, as I said, the only real word for it is grand tour. Starting in Venice tomorrow, we'll take in some of the most fabulous driving roads you can imagine. An all-star cast of the great and good of the Ferrari world, new and classic. I'm sure the Ferrari social feeds will give a little bit of a look into some of the fabulous cars that are there this year. I've heard of some people buying cars specifically to go to the cavalcade before. It's a truly once-in-a-lifetime sort of event, except it happens every year. Yudai Uchida is our pole sitter for this race. Akihiro Suzuki is alongside him on his first appearance, or at least his first weekend back in Ferrari Challenge Japan. What can our young talent do in the Ferrari Japan entry? Tatsuya Minoa is on the verge of a very good result from third on the grid, and then Kanji Yagura sits on row 2 as your Trofeo Pirelli Am pole sitter. The conditions are treacherous. There are damp patches on the circuit. This is going to be a tricky race for all parties concerned. And once those red lights go out, it's half an hour plus 1 lap of racing. Can Yudai Uchida secure his 6th consecutive victory? We'll find out now as we go racing once again at Suzuka. Ferrari Challenge Japan, race number 2 of the weekend. Looking to the inside there is one of our other drivers. In fact, it's a 28 car making moves. 3rd place overall. That also means that Motohiro Katani is your Trofeo Pirelli Am leader. Rather swallowed up there was Minoa in the number 2. He's fallen behind Yagura, which puts him into 5th overall. But it's Yudai Uchida that leads the race in the early going. You can see there Suzuki trying to get the pace and the power down, and he succeeds in doing so. He gets to the inside at the final part of the S's. They're side by side on lap 1 of the race. Each driver fighting for grip, fighting for tyre temperature, as they try and make what I believe are these slick tyres work on the damp circuit. And Suzuki there, pushed out wide by Yudai Uchida. Uchida did nothing wrong there. He simply stood his ground and said, "You're not getting past that easy." Katani in 3rd position. Then it's Yagura. Then it's Minoa. Cold Max in 6th position. Kazutaka Miura is 7th place. He's first among the Copa Shell runners. And would you believe it, the 129 car is leading in Copa Shell Am. The streak could be alive for Masafumi Iwatashi, the driver who has taken a win and a second place at each of the three rounds prior to this weekend. He currently leads in the Copa Shell Am category. Maizawa has fallen to third place in that class. The top two breaking away then from Katani in third place. Tetsuya Minoa won't be happy. He'll want to get past Yagura and Katani if he can to go pursuing his fellow Trofeo Pirelli runners. Kanji Yagura there looking to the inside at 130R, always bold. And Minoa having a look at the triangle, the final chicane of the layout. Trying to set himself up for a good run out of the triangle there, and he succeeded in doing so. There's also an offensive move going on for the race lead. Two battles going on at the sharp end of the order. Suzuki, oh, there's been an incident further back, unfortunately, involving Minoa. Minoa got a good run out of the final chicane. But unfortunately, he's ended up in the barriers there. The top two continue on. And it is Suzuki who has really been making Uchida drive through the mirrors so far. Suzuki looks a little bit braver, a little bit more confident through the S's than Uchida. That was particularly evident on the first lap. Second time through, Uchida looks a little bit more sure-footed. Of course, Uchida, experienced driver, he doesn't want to throw it away on a damp patch in these tricky conditions. Looks like they're slowing up. Do we have a safety car? Yes, we do. So, safety car is out there. And that will be for the number 2 car, unfortunately. Tatsuya Minoa, we saw in the background of the shot, had a moment. And so the safety car has been deployed. It was Yagura that Minoa was racing, and Yagura did cross the line in 4th position. So I think it is just Tatsuya Minoa that is off the circuit. With the safety car deployed, this rather gives an opportunity to Katani, to Yagura, to maybe try and get involved in the lead battle. But Uchida had his work cut out for him on that first lap, side-by-side racing through the S's. Very exciting to watch, as we see there that Minoa is A-OK. Uchida leads from Suzuki then. Kazutaka Miura 6th overall and leading in the Copa Shell category. And it is still Iwatashi that leads the way in Copa Shell Am. Iwatashi has made up 4 places from where he started as well, so he's been picking his way through a little bit. Maizawa dropping 2 places. So he now runs 3rd in Copa Shell Am behind Iwatashi and Shibata in the 181 car. Norikazu Shibata 3rd in the Copa Shell Am standings coming into this weekend. Secured both of his pre-existing podiums here at Suzuka on Japanese Grand Prix weekend. Everybody giving a wide berth as the marshals will now work to get those barriers back in position so we can return to racing. But we saw that number 2 car driver is A-OK. Minoa walked away from the scene without issue. Of course, in these conditions, it'll be very important to make sure the heat is still in your tyres by the time we go back to green flag. I suspect we're a couple of laps away from any green flag running. But when we do go green, the last thing you want is cool tyres. There's Yusaku Maezawa. We haven't really spoken much about him this weekend beyond talking about how he's doing in the race. For those of you who don't know the name, Maezawa, a Japanese entrepreneur, art collector as well, is the founder of the Japanese online retail company Start Today, otherwise known as Zozo. He, among other things, has a keen interest, as I said, art collecting, but also interested in space travel. Spent 12 days at the International Space Station at one point. There's Masafumi Hiwatashi, though, the man that leads in Copa Shell Am. As I said, yet to finish below second this year in the Copa Shell Am Championship battle. Leads the championship by some way, and I think may actually secure the Copa Shell Am title on this day, mathematically speaking, because he came in with quite the cushion already. Just having a look at the points table. Well, it was only 11 points actually, but Ryotaro Saito didn't score quite as much as he did yesterday. Saito, though, is here and is scoring, so I suspect that actually the battle for Copa Shell Am will continue on into Okayama. However, the high ground will definitely be Masafumi Hiwatashi's if he can secure the victory in this race within that class, and that is definitely what he's on course to do right now. Looking into the backgrounds of these drivers is always a very interesting experience, and one of my favourite statistics again belongs to Maezawa, who has the most retweeted message of all time on, well, Twitter or X, depending on your preference. There's quite the supercar collection as well, but that goes for a lot of our drivers here. Of course, the passion for Ferrari across road and track, and in the case of Shirosaki and Kanja Yagura, it's also crossing continents with the Ferrari cavalcade in their itinerary for, well, about 24 hours' time. Yudai Uchida. I can only, as we go to red flag. So red flag is out. I assume that is to speed up the process of getting the barriers back into position. Now, with less than 10 minutes of the race completed, that would almost certainly not be the conclusion of our race. We should go racing once again, but we are under red flag for now. That will be more than likely to allow the marshals to get the work done to put us in a position to go racing once more. The red flag is out. I was just going to say previously that Yudai Uchida, I can only imagine he, among many others, will be heading to Finale Mondiali at the end of the season. The Ferrari Challenge Japan season ends relatively early, with the final round taking place in August at Okayama. But Finale Mondiali, which of course hops between some of the best circuits in Italy. We sometimes see it at Mugello. This year we're going back to Imola, and that will be from the 16th through to the 20th of October. It was at that venue in 2022, where we got our first proper looks at the Ferrari 499P, the car that has subsequently taken victory twice now at the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2023 and 2024. That was also the weekend where we got our first peaks at the 296 GT3 as well. A fair number of new Ferrari racing products have made their way onto the international stage in the last couple of seasons. The first ever Finale Mondiale to be held at Imola was all the way back in 1998 when we were racing in Ferrari Challenge with the 355. Achingly beautiful car. That was my my bedroom wall car as a child. But you look at the statistics behind the 355 Challenge versus these cars, the 488s or indeed the new 296s, and you get an impression for just how far GT machinery has come. Power output has close to doubled. And that's the remarkable thing about these Ferrari Challenge cars, is that they are rocket ships at, in the case of these cars, 670 horsepower. And yet they're remarkably civil at the wheel. By no means are they sedate. They're anything but sedate. But they do forgive those who are a little bit newer to racing. There's a bit of a safety net there thanks to the brilliant engineering behind these cars. You saw there Kanji Ogura, who, as we've said, is one of two drivers heading over to the Ferrari cavalcade tomorrow. There's the 15 car in the hands of Cold Max. Cold Max currently running third in Trofeo Pirelli, and we fully expect him to be a challenger for the lead when we go back to racing. There's Kazutaka Miura, who leads the Copa Shell category at the moment. Shimoyama and Phil Kim also there with him in the top three in Copa Shell. And certainly Phil Kim, having gotten a taste of victory lane, gotten a taste of the top step of the podium last time out at Sugo, he will be exceedingly keen to try and get another top step in this race. There is your 152 car in the hands of Shimoyama. Tsutomu Shimoyama only 7th in the Copa Shell standings, I believe, coming into this weekend. Although, actually, no, he's a little bit higher than... No, he was 7th. Yes, I was correct. 7th in the standings coming into this weekend. That was in part thanks to a slightly slow start to the season in Suzuka, here at Suzuka, on the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. He did enter, he was at both races, he had good pace in both races, but didn't get to the finish to score points on either occasion. Shimoyama, though, has subsequently had a very good season. Yasutaka Shirasaki could get on the plane. As the Copa Shell champion, though, was 33 points clear of Phil Kim in the championship. Coming into this weekend, following the Sugo event, I think that advantage will have grown slightly after the events of yesterday's race. And with a total of 35 points available per weekend, he could well be our Copa Shell champion, which would make it even more of a shame, really, if he does have to miss out on a podium celebration. He's currently 4th in Copa Shell on our timing screen, so he wouldn't be scheduled for the podium right now. But if he does end up securing a podium position, he would have been quite eager to celebrate that, and a title if he does secure it today. Here you see Maizawa focusing in as he gets ready for the return to racing, which I don't think will be too far away. I don't think it's barrier damage so much as Tech Pro damage. The replays we get now of the start of the race. This was Yudai Uchida versus the Suzuki-driven car. Of course, we saw that the number 2 was rather swallowed up, wasn't it, off the line. Minoa falling back behind a couple of the Pirelli AM drivers. Yudai Uchida led cleanly through the first couple of corners, but then came the challenge from behind from the 69 car, Akihiro Suzuki for Auto Speciale. Carried more momentum through each of these S's, was more aggressive on the curbs as well, going through the S's. Uchida making sure that the grip was underneath him. Meanwhile, Suzuki had every bit of faith that the grip was underneath him, and it led to this fabulous side-by-side exchange as they came out of the S's, headed toward the Degnas. But Uchida critically would have the inside line for Degna 1 and made sure that he continued to lead as they headed under the bridge. Very, very good racing to kick off the race. We were just at the completion of lap number 2 at the time of the safety car that then became this red flag. But Tatsuya Minoa is okay. They're just making sure all barriers are back in position before we return to racing. Getting a look back at this first lap of the race. Kanji Yagura, of course, lost out in the early stages to Motohiro Katani. That was the battle for 3rd overall and the Trofeo Pirelli AM lead. Yagura had a look to the inside at 130R. Of course, yesterday that paid dividends for Yudai Uchida. He made what would ultimately be the race-winning move on Akita to the inside. But just joining us, we're under red flag conditions at the moment. But we will return to racing. We were just on 10 minutes into the race when the red flag was called. Safety car was initially deployed. Drivers okay, or driver okay, but a lot of Tech Pro barrier moved around. We will hopefully be back to racing before long here. You can see that the barrier repairs look to be complete coming out of the final corner, where the number 2 car found the wall. And once we do return to racing, there will be a few drivers very keen to try and make their way up the positions. I suspect none more so than Motohiko Isazaki, who has had a pair of difficult qualifying sessions, I think it's fair to say. Came into this weekend 4th in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category. Took a win at Fuji, his only win of the season so far. And followed that up with 2 podiums at Sugo. Motohiko Isazaki, who I've had the pleasure of chatting to previously, Really wonderful guy. Very exuberant individual. Session will resume in 10 minutes, so that's the good news from race control. The circuit is ready for racing once again, so we will be back underway before long. They'll more than likely do a single lap under safety car and then return to racing speeds. If you haven't joined us... Oh, Kanji Agura being pushed away. Now, we know that Kanji is on a time crunch, given he has to get on a plane to head to Venice in the Ferrari cavalcade for tomorrow morning. Is Kanji Agura out of this race? I suspect that he has had to depart early, unfortunately, given the Ferrari cavalcade element of his next couple of days. Hopefully we don't also lose Shirasaki from the race. But I would imagine that Kanji Agura is headed for the airport. They were previously going to have to run at the end of the race regardless. Kanji Agura and Yasutaka Shirasaki. For Shirasaki, he would be very keen to see the flag, given he is the Copa points leader. Coming in with a 33-point lead this weekend means he can more than likely drop a few points if he does need to run, but he would also like the opportunity to try and sew up the title today. He will be racing in less than 10 minutes' time then. That confirmation has come through. The drivers that are currently situated out of their cars will soon jump back in. Phil Kim for Nicole Competizione, the 199 car. Debut season for this man. Been receiving mentorship from his fellow South Korean Jay Park. And made his racing debut right here at Suzuka in Ferrari Challenge Japan back in April, and has been impressively fast within the context of Copa Shell this season. If you're a brand new driver and you get placed into a category above Copa Shell Am, that typically means that they're expecting great things from you. And this is Yasutaka Shirasaki's car, also being withdrawn from the red flag queue, which suggests to me that he is also making a run for the airport. Huge shame that both of those drivers will seemingly go no further in today's race, but they are both expected in Venice for the frankly incredible spectacle that is the Ferrari cavalcade. They're going from one fabulous event straight to the other, from the Ferrari racing days here at Suzuka to Venice for the Ferrari cavalcade, the grand tour of all things Ferrari. The cavalcade is a lot like Noah's Ark. You've more than likely got two of every Ferrari. I can fully understand why they're keen to get on that plane and not miss that flight. They've quite possibly shipped their cars over to partake in the cavalcade. But sadly, that is their participation in the race over. So Yasutaka Shirasaki and Kanji Agura, who was, of course, leading Trofeo Pirelli Am, will not take the restart. For Akita, He started this race with some work to do. The driver who was on pole yesterday started in 10th. He's 7th position as of the red flag, although of course he will be promoted to 6th place with Kanji Agura not taking the start. Let's check in on Desuke. He's happy. Some things never change. Come back, come back, come back. Hello. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Desuke is a great personality. We saw him up on the podium yesterday, lapping up the moment and the thrill. And he's got some fans in the stands as well, by the looks of it. Very nice purse as well. There's your 192 car in sort of the classic AF Corsa colours there. The 192 machine of Ryuichi Kunihiro, who debuted in Ferrari Challenge back in 2019. And there is Motohiko Isosaki. Dizzies himself with Ferrari racing across multiple continents. Former All-Japan F3 racer. A one-time teammate at the Macau Grand Prix to none other than Kamui Kobayashi, who of course formerly raced on a factory basis with Ferrari in the World Endurance Championship. Great to see everybody getting ready to go. We're 3 minutes away from the cars rolling again here at Suzuka. This is Ferrari Challenge Japan. We have had a brief red flag here, but we're still due 20 minutes of racing to conclude the 2024 Ferrari Racing Days at Suzuka. Less than 3 minutes before we're rolling again. Yusaku Maezawa will be looking to reclaim that Copa Shell-Am lead. He was the pole sitter within class coming into this race, but lost a couple of positions in the early going. Masafumi Hiwatashi, at the time of the red flag, was leader in class. He'll be looking to build upon that and maybe try and get some of the cars ahead of him between himself and the rest of the Copa Shell-Am runners when we go back to green flag. Hiwatashi, one of the Copa Shell-Am racers who did also compete with us last year in Ferrari Challenge Japan on the inaugural season. Came 4th last year and is currently on course to be our championship leader once again, exiting this weekend. Ryotaro Umuri's European version entered car with the distinctive golden butterfly livery. Very, very well prepared car, 5th in Copa Shell-Am coming into this weekend. So many Ferrari Challenge liveries globally, but I think particularly here in Japan, really are eye-catchers. In Ferrari Challenge Japan, it's not just the helmet that's an expression of the driver, it's often the livery as well. And you get to see some of the drivers' creativity, as well as perhaps their day-to-day lives, their jobs adorned to the cars. Safety car is at the front of the queue. The green light is on at the end of pit lane. It's 10 past the hour, and right on cue we are back to rolling, and the clock will start ticking down once again on the race, and it is ticking down again on the race. So we are effectively back to racing here. I suspect we'll do just the one lap behind safety car. Maybe they'll do two in the fashion that they did prior to the race, but I suspect the impetus will be on getting back to racing speed as soon as possible. So we'll see whether it's one or two laps under the safety car, but we are officially back underway here in Ferrari Challenge Japan after that red flag. If you're just joining us this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, Tatsuya Minoa for Ferrari Japan, the guest car, had an incident at the final corner. He is okay, but the red flag was needed to put some of the Tech Pro barriers back into position. And after a fairly lengthy delay, we are back to getting the cars rolling now, and we're just a few moments away from returning to racing conditions. It's Yuda Uchida, the effectively already crowned Trofeo Pirelli champion for this season. Last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion as well in the inaugural Ferrari Challenge Japan season. It's Uchida that leads, and he is looking to perhaps secure his 6th consecutive race win here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. However, he has company behind him in the form of Akihiro Suzuki for Auto Speciali. Of course, Yuda Uchida representing Rosso Scuderia. All of the effective team names in this series are, of course, the names of the dealerships that these drivers are entered under, the Copa Dealer, a very important part of the Ferrari Challenge structure. And it is Rosso Scuderia currently leading when it comes to the Copa Dealer standings here in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and at one point they were 1-2 yesterday, courtesy of Uchida and Yasutaka Shirasaki. So in one sense, that red flag will have been a blessing to some of the drivers, those who perhaps were struggling a little bit on the kind of quasi-damp surface that we had to contend with. They will now be seeing that the circuit has dried over the course of the 20 minutes or so that we are waiting to go racing. And that may be a favour. You can still see those some damp patches on the run from Spoon to 130R. You can also see the 296 GTB stretching its legs and driving away from the field, which means that we are going to return to racing this time. Again, you can see there is still offline some wet patches to contend with. If you try and make a move to the inside at 130R, you'll have to consider that. But now the question is, when does Yuda Uchida pull the trigger? He pulls it very early. He's gone already halfway towards 130R, just past the West Circuit pit lane. He has disappeared off. We are back to racing conditions. He will have caught out a few drivers there, I'm sure, but I don't think he really caught out the man he wanted to. Akihiro Suzuki is still right there with him as we return to green flag racing with just about 16 minutes left on the clock here. The Ferrari Challenge Japan race number 2 of the weekend resumes Ferrari Racing Days 2024 here at Suzuka. You see there the field very strung out as we return to green flag conditions. Not everybody was expecting to go that early. And it has strung the field out a little bit, so moving and shaking through the order. The 150 car making a move there into turn 1, Ryotaro Umuri. But it's Uchida that leads, and look at that, fighting against the car there, Suzuki. He was very confident through the S's on the first lap. And well held on that occasion. There's Kazutaka Miura, your leader in the Copa Shell category, under pressure from Akita. Akita's in a different class, of course. He runs in the Trofeo Pirelli Am category, but having started in 10th place, still on the upsurge. Akita has inherited 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli Am, as well as 6th overall, with Kanji Ogura not taking the restart, so he's currently on course to fight for a podium in Trofeo Pirelli Am. There is the 152 car. Or, yes, the 152 car there of Shimoyama under pressure from Phil Kim. That's for 2nd in Copa Shell. Phil Kim having a little look to the inside as they approach 130R. I think more speculative than intent-filled. Cold Max there being closed in upon, actually, by Kazutaka Miura as well as Akita. Now, of course, if Akita can close in and get past Cold Max, that will be for 2nd in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but he's got Kazutaka Miura to deal with before he could consider Cold Max. And to the inside goes Akita. That's committed on the brakes into the first corner. Got the sneaking suspicion he was going to get that done. He likes Suzuka. And sure enough, Akita is up into 5th overall, and now he can try for 2nd in Trofeo Pirelli Am as he pursues Cold Max. Speaking of battles for 2nd, there is Phil Kim just behind Shimoyama. That's for 2nd in Copa Shell. Just behind them is Atsushi Iritani, another of the drivers running in Trofeo Pirelli Am. So he's running a different class, but he will, of course, be keen on making up overall positions in the black and pink car. Masaru Yoneda rounding out the overall top 10, a couple of seconds behind Iritani. Phil Kim trying to find a way by, and it looked like Akita was going for Cold Max there. Got a good run under the bridge. Not close enough, though, to go late braking into the hairpin. Phil Kim remains behind Shimoyama as well. Uchida had a 1.6 second lead at the last split over Akihiro Suzuki. So it looks like Uchida's managing things well at the front. Akita, though, really wants to try and salvage, if not 2nd place, the win in Trofeo Pirelli Am. He's currently 3rd in the class, and he sits behind Cold Max for the time being. Katani doing an admirable job there. The white and black car just going through the bottom of shot. He leads in Trofeo Pirelli Am, of course, and he'll be keen for Akita to be held off by Cold Max, if at all possible. These two had a great dice on the Japanese Grand Prix Sunday at the season opening weekend of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Cold Max and Akita. And they resume battle once again. Cold Max got a little bit unsettled under power there. Coming out onto the main straight. Akita in the slipstream. He got it done at turn 1 a lap ago. Can he replicate that once more? Has a look to the inside. He is committed on the brakes. He can't quite get his nose there, but he might make it at the second apex. They're side by side now as they head up the hill towards the S's. Akita on the outside for the first element, but can he hold on around the outside? Yes, he can. A wonderful overtake from Akita. That puts him up to 4th overall. More importantly, that puts him up to 2nd within the Trofeo Pirelli Am category, and now Cold Max has to worry about the Copa Shell leader behind. Kazutaka Miura sees an opportunity to try for an overall top 5. Shimoyama still under that pressure from Phil Kim as well as they bounce over the curbs at Degner. Uchida's gap is actually slightly down. He's lost 0.4 of a second over the last lap or so to Suzuki. So we'll keep an eye on that at the front as well, as Phil Kim has a speculative look to the inside. It was actually collisions between these two, Shimoyama and Phil Kim, that took out or prevented each driver from scoring points last time we were here at Suzuka. So this is a resumption of a battle that's gotten physical before between Shimoyama and Phil Kim. We've got less than 10 minutes left on the clock. The drivers will be acutely aware of how much time they've got left. Phil Kim has time for now. But he'll also be thinking, I've got the pace to go chasing Kazutaka Miura. Thus, he will want to get past Shimoyama and has a look to the inside at 130R. That is the most committed move of the weekend so far. Phil Kim was getting that position come what may, and through he goes. Satomu Shimoyama demoted. Oh, but Phil Kim goes wide there at the first element of the triangle, just about gets it stopped. He hasn't got a particularly poor run out of the triangle. Usually when you go deep into the corner, it ruins your exit. But Phil Kim salvaged that quite nicely. He should, barring a return fire from Shimoyama, he should now be able to try and hunt down hunt down Kazutaka Miura. Checking back in on the Copa Shell Am lead. And there is that battle now. Hiwatashi is the leader in Copa Shell Am. Again, looking to continue that streak of a win and a second place at each destination. He's currently on course to do so. He netted the second place yesterday, and he's currently on course for a win here. However, both Yusaku Maezawa in third place and the 181 or Norikazu Shibata in second place are right there with him. Copa Shell Am has been hotly contested this season in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and of course, arguably the rookie of the season, Yusaku Maezawa, was only joining us for the very first time at Fuji. Secured a win on that first ever weekend of racing. However, because he missed Suzuka, that does mean that he's unlikely to be a factor in the championship maths coming into Okayama. Phil Kim has caught up to Kazutaka Miura. Cold Max just ahead of both of them, but there is, with the two cars with the yellow banners at the top of their windscreen, that is the battle for the Copa Shell lead now. Phil Kim, having dispatched Shimoyama, is now trying to find his way past Kazutaka Miura as they come through the Casio Triangle. Cold Max just ahead of them. He's, of course, a Trofeo Pirelli Am runner, so he's not in the same class. Miura will be focusing a lot more on Phil Kim behind than Cold Max ahead at the moment. That's where the points come in. Kazutaka Miura in the 104 car. 2 podiums so far this season for Kazutaka Miura. He's yet to have taken a win in class this season. You can see there, placing his car nicely is Phil Kim. Really kind of putting the intimidation factor on, showing the nose wherever he can, letting Kazutaka Miura know, I am right here with you. Of course, the dirty air from Cold Max and the distraction of having a car up ahead will be slightly compromising Kazutaka Miura. Phil Kim has built a nice lead over Shimoyama behind. Here comes Phil Kim to the inside line. He gets it done. Nice driving from the South Korean racer. The Nicole Competizione guys will be delighted. Phil Kim is once again leading in Copa Shell. He's taken a win so far this year already. He did it at Sugo. Finally claimed that inaugural win, but he goes wide at Spoon. And Kazutaka Miura says, I'll have that position back. Phil Kim says, actually, I really like having the race lead. They're side by side for the Copa Shell Am lead as they head towards 130R. The favoured inside line belongs to Phil Kim. Headlights ablaze on Kazutaka Miura on the outside, but Phil Kim has the high ground and has the position. For a second time, he gets it done at 130R. It's Kazutaka Miura in the lead in Copa Shell. Sorry, it's Phil Kim in the lead in Copa Shell. What a move from Phil Kim. He got it done once, then he needed to get it done a second time, and he duly obliged. Yusaku Maezawa still looking for a way past Shibata here for second in Shell Am. Was getting some good runs down the main straight at Fuji back in May. Let's see if he can once again maybe get a good run out of the triangle and set himself up for turn one. As a little speculative, well, that's more than speculative, had a big look to the inside at turn one, but wasn't close enough for a move there. Maezawa with 4 minutes left to go. Perhaps the Copa Shell Am lead is a bridge too far at this point. Iwatashi a good couple of seconds clear of this battle for second place. As Yuda Yoshida, heavy on the brakes there. He's got a near 4-second lead over Suzuki at this stage. Remember that when the clock strikes 0, we'll be on the penultimate lap of the race. It's 30 minutes plus 1 lap, as Phil Kim, not content with the Copa Shell lead, is now trying to find his way past Cold Max. Cold Max runs it a little bit wide on the first apex of Spoon. Kim there, slight snap of oversteer coming out of the corner. He's got to be careful, of course, not to lose out to Kazutaka Miura. That's where his points come in. Getting past Cold Max means an overall top 5, which of course is fabulous, but it doesn't score him any more points. Points are scored entirely within your class, and a collision between Cold Max and Phil Kim there. Hopefully just cosmetic damage there, but a little bit of a collision. Phil Kim continues to pursue Cold Max here. Looks to the outside at turn 1, trying to set himself up for maybe a move into the second part of the corner. Around the outside, potentially, of Cold Max. Wasn't quite far enough alongside to make that work again. Kazutaka Miura just biding his time. Watching on and seeing whether there are any pieces left for him to pick up in this battle between Cold Max and Phil Kim. Your Copa Shell leader with the yellow banner on his windscreen, Phil Kim, the black front fascia on that car. Cold Max running in Trofeo Pirelli Am, running third in Trofeo Pirelli Am, has his hand full of the Copa Shell leader, Phil Kim. Yellow flags out, and that's because we got a car stopped. That was the car that was second in the Copa Shell Am category. So Norikazu Shibata has come to a halt on the circuit. That means that Yusaku Maezawa in second place now in Copa Shell Am. There he is. He has been upgraded to second in Copa Shell Am, which means that Iwatashi could come under threat from the white and red striped car. Masafumi Iwatashi continues to lead. Yusaku Maezawa now promoted to second in the class. Here comes the battle once again for 5th overall. Cold Max versus Phil Kim versus Kazutaka Miura. 45 seconds left on the clock. They will start the penultimate lap this time by, so it'll be 2 laps to go when they cross the line this time. Kim gets a marginally better run out of the triangle. Will be in the slipstream, but is the slipstream effective enough to facilitate a move at the first corner? I don't think he's quite going to be close enough. As a look to the outside, again, maybe fancies his chances of carrying speed around the outside of the rather well-cambered first couple of apexes here at Suzuka, but he can't get it done. Now into the S's section. Coldmax taking a little bit more curb here. I think he is really wheeling now. Hands gripped on the steering wheel. He's some 13 seconds behind Akita, who runs second in Trofeo Pirelli Am, so he can focus purely on what's going on behind him because there's nothing happening in front of him. Yellow flags will more than likely still be out here coming through Degner 2, so they can't make a move there. Out of Degner 2, under the bridge. Now, can he have a go at the hairpin? He's close. He's a late breaker, but is he close enough? I don't think he is, but he does close up in a big way in the braking zone. Coldmax, though, squares off corner exit nicely. Clock has hit 0, and someone has found the barrier at Spoon. Not sure what's happened there, but the race continues on. Coldmax goes by. There is Suzuki. We've got a red flag out. It's Yudai Uchida who has gone missing. Thought it was a silver car, but it's Yudai Uchida. So Suzuki had just inherited the lead at the time of the red flag, and the clock having already hit 0, this race will conclude. But that is big, big news. Red flag out. Obviously, we now await any updates we can get. But for now, we know that Uchida is the driver that's gone missing, which means that Akihiro Suzuki comes to the pit lane under red flag conditions as the race leader. And with the clock having hit 0, of course, this will be the conclusion of the race. Catani, the Trofeo Pirelli Am leader, and built himself a solid advantage over Akita during that race. Akita at one time looked like he might challenge Catani. Deske and Uchida are there, and the good news is Deske is as animated as ever. And Uchida seems to be well as well. Deske comes from a medical background. He is a medical professional, so I think what actually happened there was Deske was checking on Uchida. We've seen him do that before, and we saw there that Yudai Uchida was A-OK and chatting to Deske, which is really good news. That means that Yudai Uchida is okay. And you have to admire Deske. Lovely guy. And also the first one to pull up and check when anything does happen. Deske, a surgeon by day and a racing driver by weekend. So then, with the red flag being caused by Yudai Uchida, he, of course, in theory, shouldn't be classified. And that means that Akihiro Suzuki, on his first weekend of the season in Ferrari Challenge Japan, is a winner in race 2. Suzuki will be delighted. The Auto Speciale entered car. With the experienced driver, Akihiro Suzuki will be on the top step of the Trofeo Pirelli podium in the Trofeo Pirelli Am order, and second overall as well. Motohiro Katani is our race winner. He had a nice controlled race. Well clear of Akita towards the end, of course, in Copa Shell, Phil Kim, battling as hard as he was to try and get past Cold Max. Cold Max, of course, in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Phil Kim will be our winner in Copa Shell. And in Copa Shell Am, the streak continues, because once again, Masafumi Iwatashi has secured a second place, that was yesterday, and a win, that's right now, in the fourth round of the season. The streak continues of a win and a second at each destination. Masafumi Iwatashi for European version will be the Copa Shell Am winner. There is the Copa Shell winner, Phil Kim, his second victory of the season, the second victory of his racing career, as new and as burgeoning as it is. '15 car of Cold Max being put back into the garage. He will celebrate a podium in Trofeo Pirelli Am. A shame that we've ended this race under the red flags, but great news that Yudai Uchida is okay and out of the car. We saw that for ourselves as Deske checked him over. And now the drivers will make their way toward the podium area at the far end of the Suzuka pit lane. Maizawa's streak of strong results continues. Has been on the pace everywhere and has been on the podium more often than not. There's Masafumi Iwatashi celebrating again. Has won at every single round. And in fact, he's the only driver across all four classes to have taken a class win at each of our 4 rounds so far. There's Deske. Always has a pose. 108 car. John Leo there at the end of the pits. Or, yes, it is the 108 car. Conflicting door numbers. One says 168, one says 108. The Corner Shiba car, that is, of course. He had a solid run within Copa Shell. Getting a replay here of some highlights of the race. Feels like a long time ago now with the mid-race red flag, but it was Yudai Uchida that got the best start. He was followed through the opening bends by that 69 car, Akihiro Suzuki. Suzuki was fully committed through the S's on the first lap in what was still relatively damp conditions on the slicks. Side-by-side action out of the S's and towards the Degners. That was such an exciting opening sequence. Good thing about these cars, high-powered Ferrari GT cars with lower downforce, of course, than a GT3 car, does mean that you can often get those side-by-side moments. Cold Max and Akita fighting wheel-to-wheel, not for the first time this year here at Suzuka. This time it was Akita who came out on top, got to the inside at turn 2, and then around the first of the S's, later on the brakes, fully committed on the outside, full faith in the Pirelli P0s. And Akita moved up to what would be his definitive finishing position, second in Trofeo Pirelli Am. A great battle in Copa Shell. as Phil Kim made his way from third in class to first in class. That was the move for the class win, the definitive move. He had to try and get it done on a couple of occasions, getting past Kazutaka Miura. Phil Kim would ultimately win that class, and per my understanding, Akihiro Suzuki should be the winner. Of course, we do usually count a lap back in a red flag scenario, and Yudai Uchida, having been the cause of the red flag, he was leading the lap prior, but usually in a red flag scenario, the driver that's caused the red flag doesn't get classified. So we'll have to wait and get some confirmation as to how that works here. So, depending on the verdict, we saw the graphic saying that Akihiro Suzuki was the winner, but of course that's not final nor definitive. We'll have to wait and see what is pushed through. Uchida may yet get his full points out of this race, despite ending it at Spoon. We'll wait and see what verdict is given. It'll be a few minutes before we get any podiums anyway, so we'll no doubt have confirmation before long. But we can definitely confirm our winners in the other classes. Pirelli Am going the way of Motohiro Katani on his first appearance of the season. It's been a little while since we've seen him in the Ferrari Challenge paddock, having began racing Ferrari Challenge in 2022 in the final season of the Asia Pacific Series. And a Pirelli Am top step will be a welcome thing for him. Of course, it was Akita who took the win yesterday. He'll be second in class today. A very good effort to go from 10th on the grid to 4th. As for Phil Kim, a very impressive race as well, out of the South Korean racer. He started down in 12th as well and finished in 6th place, so he made up some good positions, did some good overtaking to net himself the result. I believe we have just counted back a lap on the timing screen, and we do now see Yudai Uchida at the top of the timing sheet, so that may well suggest that Uchida will be classified as the race winner. Was just discussing that with some of the Ferrari media team, and they've pointed out that someone has flipped, caused a red flag, and then been classified as the winner before. Lawrence Van Toor did that at Macau once, if you recall. So, Yudai Uchida may well be our Trofeo Pirelli leader after all. Trofeo Pirelli winner after all. That's what's currently showing on my timing screen. So, contrary to the graphic a minute ago, Akihiro Suzuki may have to settle for second here. Looks like Yudai Uchida, with the lap count back that is typical during a red flag situation. Yudai Uchida may well be our race winner once all is said and done. And that would continue his very exciting streak of wins. 6 wins that would be for him in the last 6 races. of course, will have already secured the Trofeo Pirelli Championship for this season's Ferrari Challenge Japan. No one can outscore him from this position. I thought that Yasutaka Shirasaki may be able to say the same. At the conclusion of this race, he was well over 30 points clear in Copper Shell. However, there was, of course, the small matter of the Ferrari cavalcade beginning in Venice, and both he and Kanji Yagura, I think, may already be in the air as they make their way to Venice for that fabulous tour across Italy and sometimes beyond for the cavalcade. The crews here at Suzuka have been diligently working immediately as soon as the race concluded to keep the circuit in A1 condition. Suzuka is a fabulous facility, and the crews that make it tick behind the scenes are a credit to the circuit. Very, very practical minded and very fast to resolve any problems that come up. The long-time host of the Japanese Grand Prix, obviously on the tin top side of things as well. The 1,000-kilometer race at Suzuka, a mainstay. It looks as if we're going to go back to having a 1,000-kilometer race here at Suzuka as well, which is really exciting news for the sports car fans local to the facility, who have no doubt been here for the Ferrari racing days to lap up not just the sports car side of things, the tin top side of things, but also, of course, the F1 Cliente cars, who have certainly made their presence known this weekend. Ferrari racing days are always just the most exciting occasions. And this has been a fitting crown jewel weekend for the Ferrari enthusiasts and owners of Japan. So then, the results are confirmed on at least a provisional basis. Yudai Uchida listed as our race winner with the lap count back. Akihiro Suzuki taking second position ultimately. Motohiro Katani in third. Akita in fourth. Coldmax in fifth place. As we continue our way down the list, of course, Phil Kim winning in Copper Shell. Copper Shell Am going to Masafumi Hiwatashi. He just beat Yusaku Maezawa there towards the end of the race. As always, a very, very strong entry list and a great number of cars getting to the flag as well. 28 cars left running at the end of that one. And a win again then, at least provisionally, for Yudai Uchida. It does seem that the lap count back is definitive, and Yudai Uchida will be classified as our race winner, as we saw there from Suzuki, Katani, Akita, Coldmax, Phil Kim, Kazutaka Miura, Tsutomu Shimayama, Atsushi Iritani, and Masaru Yaneda, bringing us down to 10th place. Motohiko Isazaki made up some good places as well, ultimately finishing in 12th position, but he'll want to be back in the top 10, if not the top 5, by the time we approach Okayama, our final destination of the year. and very interested to see if we get any additional new entries at Okayama. It's always a possibility, people sampling the series before committing for 2025. Certainly Ferrari Challenge Japan has been going from strength to strength in its short 2-year existence, really proving the potential of a national Ferrari Challenge series, as is the UK series over in Europe. I do understand that the kind of national Ferrari Challenge concept, the One Nation Series concept, is to be looked at further in years to come. Got 4 very successful series currently, of course, with Ferrari Challenge, the Japanese series, the UK series, the North American and European series as well. Of course, the Ferrari Challenge lineage dating back now over 30 years. All began with the 348. And the cars have come on so far now from initially being effectively a track package for a road car. These 488 Challenge Evos and the new 296 Challenge. Bespoke race cars in every sense of the word. High performance machines. Seeing some of the Ferrari road cars there, some of the 296s, and I think an F8 Tributo there as well. By no means are we lacking for Ferraris this weekend at the racing days. I'd love to know the exact count of how many Ferraris are here between the XX cars, the Ferrari Challenge Japan cars, and of course the Ferrari owners that are on site this weekend. It must go well into the hundreds. Oftentimes at these Ferrari Challenge events you'll see some seriously impressive metal being driven to the circuit by the drivers as well. The passion for Ferrari is evident both on and off track. Podiums will very shortly begin. You can see the crews are ready and waiting for the opportunity to celebrate as the, I think, event concluding parade is being prepared for out there. Here comes our first podium. This is the Trofeo Pirelli podium. This is Akihiro Suzuki. And there is Yudai Uchida coming to the top step. So Uchida will be our winner in Trofeo Pirelli with the lap count back, despite having his incident at the end of the race that brought out the red flag. With the count back, Uchida will be our winner for a 6th time in a row. Hard to beat Yudai Uchida in a Ferrari. Just ask some of the pro drivers that have come up against him this year in the Ferrari Japan Guest Cup. Even Yuga Furatani, who really got his head around the 488 Challenge Evo quickly, had to really fight against Uchida at the season opening weekend. And since that season opening weekend, from round 2 onwards, Uchida has gone undefeated. And now posing for the pictures. Of course, we have 4 podiums to bring you. Celebrations for each of our 4 classes. This is our Trofeo Pirelli podium. Yuda Uchida, in terms of the level of comp had this year, he's had some high-level drivers to go against. Furitani, Imada, Inotsume, and co. He's certainly not had it all its own way. He's just that good at Ferrari Challenge racing. One of the veterans of the Asian region in Ferrari Challenge competition. Very excited to see how he performs come Finale Mondiali, assuming he makes that pilgrimage over, which I suspect he will. Spraying the champagne to celebrate another win. And as I said previously, no one mathematically can catch him. He will be, for the second consecutive year, the man in the record books as the Ferrari Challenge Japan Trofeo Pirelli champion of 2024. Next up, of course, will be our podium for Trofeo Pirelli AM. That will be our opportunity to see Motohiro Katani celebrate his win. I'm sure Akita will be full of adrenaline after making all of those moves in the race. Cold Max to the third step of the podium. There's Akita. Handshake between he and Cold Max. Cold Max, of course, did most of his battling with the Copa Shell frontrunners in that race. Here comes Motohiro Katani to the top step. Katani, in his first weekend of competing this season in Ferrari Challenge Japan, has absolutely delivered on the pace that we know he has. A previous winner, of course, in Trofeo Pirelli AM in Ferrari Challenge Racing. Akita, another one of those jovial personalities that's always great to watch in these celebrations. Katani holds his trophy aloft. Hopefully we get to see him back at Okayama. He was a welcome addition to the grid this weekend for sure. 2 trophies, 2 handshakes, a little bit of the bubbly to celebrate for Katani-san. Drivers pose for the pictures now, and then they will get to spray the champagne here on the legendary podium of Suzuka, where so many greats have stood over the years, of course. Just about every great you can name, as a matter of fact. And Akita wants that bottle of champagne. I don't know whether he wants to drink it or spray it first. Yeah, he's the first one to get the cork out. Great to see them all, as always, reveling in the moment, also reveling in each other's company. The camaraderie is always evident to see. I think they're just as keen to spray it as they are to drink it in 30-degree temperatures. Motohiro Katani getting some in the eyes, as you saw, but he won't mind. He's had a very good day in the office, ultimately. Next up, of course, is our Copa Shell order. Tsutomu Shimayama, Kazutaka Miura, and Phil Kim will be heading up to the podium for that. There's Tsutomu Shimayama. Great to see him and Phil Kim having that battle. There is Kazutaka Miura having to settle for second on this occasion, having led most of the race within Copa Shell, and that's because this man, Phil Kim, had incredible pace today. Was then, of course, trying to fight for 5th overall with Cold Max. And he did so not at the expense of his Copa Shell win. That's often the pitfall with multi-class racing of this nature, where you've got 4 different classes of driver out there. You can sometimes get distracted fighting drivers outside of your class, but that was not the case today. And Phil Kim stands on the top step. Miura will be happy with his race. He, of course, was also keeping pace with Cold Max, who has a good amount of experience in Ferrari Challenge competition, a lot of experience in Ferrari Challenge competition, having debuted back in 2018. Certainly a very good benchmark. Drivers hold their trophies aloft, they'll get some pictures in, and then they will spray the champagne in celebration. So this, our penultimate podium, it will of course be the Copa Shell Am guys that celebrate lastly here. They had a great battle as well. But now it's Copa Shell's time to pop the corks, and Phil Kim, first one to take the checkered flag, first one to pop the cork as well. And yeah, that definitely went in his eyes. Oh, Phil. They take their sips, they take their bows. I'm sure we'll see all 3 of them towards the front of Copa Shell. Once again in Okayama in August. Copa Shell Am will be next up then. Our final podium of the weekend here at the Ferrari Racing Days, and of course for Masafumi Iwatashi and for enthusiasts of symmetry everywhere, it is once again a celebration. The streak of 1 second place and 1 victory at each destination has continued for Iwatashi. Shell Am podium, 3rd step of course going to Ryotaro Saito. Here's Yusaku Maezawa, 2nd place once again. But Masafumi Iwatashi is on top for the 4th time this season. 4 wins in 4 rounds. Yet to finish below 2nd place this year. That is how you win championships, and that is exactly what Iwatashi looks like he may do. He has not mathematically won the title yet, courtesy of the man to his left, Ryotaro Saito, who I believe will still be his closest competition heading into the Okayama weekend. Holding that aloft. And Saito could still clinch that title, but certainly the numbers in favour of the man holding the trophy highest. That is Masafumi Iwatashi, our Copa Shell Am race winner. They pose for the pictures. They will also get the opportunity to spray their champagne. Here at Suzuka, our 2nd visit to the circuit has been every bit as exciting as the first, that much is for certain. Ferrari Racing Days of 2024 have delivered. Now the champagne has been delivered as well. So for the final time this weekend, no pressure, Copa Shell Am. You have to close it out in style, and they do. Congratulations to Saito in third place, to Maizawa in second place, and the Copa Shell-Am winner, Masafumi Hiwatashi. Their podium celebrations conclude our day of racing here on the Sunday at Ferrari Racing Days Japan 2024. The Ferrari Challenge Japan's penultimate round, of course, of 2024. We now focused on the August weekend for Okayama, the 24th, 25th of August, when we will conclude the Ferrari Challenge Japan season. It's been a thrilling season to this point, with record entry numbers and record interest from our competitors. Make sure you join us for more action at Okayama. Suzuka, on 2 occasions this season, has brought us some of the finest racing we've seen all year. The drivers have been stellar, and with championships on the line, we'll see more of this side-by-side, late-breaking, fully committed action from Ferrari Challenge Japan as we conclude the sophomore season of the Japanese Ferrari Challenge Championship.